The palace of the empire stood at the center of a world made of glass and light. Its towers reached so high that clouds wrapped around them like white ribbons. Ships from 100 different planets came and went from its landing bays every hour. Guards in silver armor walked its halls. Servants moved like shadows, quiet and quick. And at the heart of it all sat Queen Nara, ruler of 17 star systems, commander of the largest fleet in the known galaxy. She was tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. This was a deeper thing. It lived in her bones. It made her eyes heavy even when she forced them open. It whispered to her at night that she was failing at the one job that mattered most: being a mother. Her daughter, Princess Lyra, was 6 years old. She had violet skin like all children, 4 arms that she kept folded close to her body, and eyes the color of dying stars. She was small for her age, thin. She ate little and slept less. The doctors said her body was healthy. The problem was somewhere else, somewhere no medicine could reach. Lyra had not spoken a single word in 2 years. Not since the day her father died. King had been a good man, strong but gentle. He laughed easily and often. He used to carry Lyra on his shoulders through the royal gardens, pointing at flowers and making up silly names for them. He read her stories every night. He made her feel safe. Then the war came. A border conflict with a rival empire. Led his fleet personally because that was the kind of king he was. He believed leaders should never ask soldiers to face dangers they would not face themselves. He did not come home. Lyra was 4 years old when she watched her mother receive the news. She saw Queen Nara's face turn to stone. She heard the words but did not understand them. Her father was gone. What did that mean? When would he come back? He was never coming back. Something broke inside the little princess that day. She stopped speaking. She stopped laughing. She stopped being the bright, curious child she had been. In her place was a small ghost who wandered the palace halls with empty eyes. Queen Nara tried everything. She hired the best doctors from They examined Lyra for weeks and found nothing wrong with her body. Her vocal cords worked perfectly. Her brain showed no damage. She simply chose not to speak. The queen then brought in psychologists, experts in child behavior. They came from across the galaxy. The specialists tried gentle therapy and structured routines. The experts used advanced technology to map her emotions. Empaths from the quiet nebula tried to reach her through mental connection. None of them lasted more than a week. Lyra did not want their help. She made this very clear. The first nanny found all her belongings thrown out a window. The second discovered that Lyra had somehow locked her in a bathroom for an entire night. The third resigned after Lyra stared at her for 6 hours straight without blinking. The fourth, fifth, and sixth all quit within 3 days each, citing different reasons but sharing the same look of defeat. By the 10th nanny, rumors began spreading through the palace. The princess was cursed. She was broken. She was dangerous. Some whispered that the ghost of the dead king had taken her mind. Others said she was simply born wrong, a mistake that should never have been made. Queen Nara heard these whispers. They made her want to scream. This was her daughter, her child, the last piece of she had left in this universe. How dare they speak of her like she was a problem to be solved or a disease to be cured? But as the months passed and more nannies came and went, even Nara began to wonder if something was truly wrong. She loved Lyra with all her heart. She would burn galaxies for her, yet she could not reach her. Every time she tried to hold her daughter, Lyra went stiff like a board. Every time she spoke to her, Lyra looked through her like she was made of glass. The 15th nanny was supposed to be different. She was an elder from the Temple of Whispers, a religious order known for healing broken minds. She had worked with traumatized children for 300 years. She came highly recommended by 4 different planetary governments. She was patient, kind, and absolutely certain she could help the princess. She lasted 12 days. On the final night, Lyra, a palace service drone. These drones were simple machines designed to carry supplies and clean floors. They were harmless. They were not supposed to be able to chase people. They were definitely not supposed to be able to lock onto a single target and pursue them through the royal gardens for 6 consecutive hours while playing loud alarm sounds. The elder from the Temple of Whispers ran until her old legs gave out. When the guards finally caught the drone and shut it down, they found her sitting in a fountain, crying and demanding to leave immediately. Queen Nara dismissed her with an apology and a large sum of money. Then she walked to the empty nursery and stood there alone. The room was beautiful. Painted walls showed scenes of distant planets and colorful nebulas. Toys from a dozen different worlds sat on shelves, untouched. A bed shaped like a crescent moon waited in the corner, its blankets perfectly smooth because Lyra rarely slept in it. She preferred to curl up in closets or under furniture, hiding from something only she could see. The queen placed her hand on the cold wall. Her throat felt tight, her eyes burned. "What am I supposed to do?" she thought. "How do I save you when you will not let me close?" She had conquered empires. She had negotiated treaties that changed the fate of billions. She had stared down enemies who wanted her dead and made them back away with a single look. But she could not make her own daughter look at her with love instead of emptiness. 3 floors below the nursery, in a part of the palace that royalty never visited, a human man pushed a mop across a dusty floor. His name was. He was 34 years old. He had been working in the palace for 11 months, and in all that time, not a single person of importance had learned his name. He was thinking about his daughter. He was always thinking about his daughter. She was 8 years old, and she was very far away, and he missed her so much that sometimes he forgot how to breathe. He did not know that his life was about to change. He did not know that upstairs, a broken princess was looking for something she could not name. He just kept mopping, humming an old song his mother used to sing, and counting the days until he could go home. Never planned to leave Earth. He never dreamed of traveling to distant stars or walking through alien palaces. He was a simple man with simple dreams, a small apartment inn, a job teaching children at the local elementary school, a wife who laughed at his terrible jokes, a daughter who climbed into his lap every evening and demanded stories about brave knights and magical creatures. For a few years, he had everything he wanted. Then his wife got sick. The disease was rare, the treatments were expensive, sold their apartment. He borrowed money from everyone he knew. He worked extra jobs at night and on weekends. He did everything a husband could do, and it was not enough. The doctors tried their best, but some battles cannot be won. His wife died on a rainy Tuesday while holding his hand. She made him promise one thing before she went. Take care of, give her a good life. Do not let grief destroy you. Try to keep that promise, but grief is a heavy thing and debt is heavier. The medical bills had piled up like mountains. His teaching salary could not climb those mountains. He worked himself to exhaustion, but the numbers kept growing. The banks sent letters. Then they sent people. His daughter asked why strangers kept knocking on their door, and he did not know what to tell her. That was when he saw the advertisement. The Empire was hiring workers from minor species for their outer colonies. The pay was 10 times what he made as a teacher. The contract was 5 years. Room and board were included. All his debts would be paid in advance. The catch was simple. He would have to leave Earth. He would have to leave. Stared at that advertisement for 3 days. He held his daughter while she slept and cried silently into her hair. How could he leave her? How could he not? If he stayed, they would lose everything. The debt collectors would take what little they had left, would grow up in poverty, watching her father work himself to death and still fail. If he left, she could have a future. His mother agreed to take her. She was a strong woman, still healthy, and she loved as much as did. 5 years. He could survive 5 years. Then he would come home, debt-free, and make up for all the lost time. He told on her 7th birthday. She cried. He cried. His mother cried. They held each other in the small apartment and made promises that felt like glass in their mouths, beautiful but fragile. 1 month later, was on a ship heading for the stars. They did not think much of humans. In the grand ranking of species that made up the galactic community, humans were near the bottom. They were not strong like they were not smart like the synth collective. They were not long-lived like the themselves. They were just there, useful for manual labor, unremarkable otherwise. Did not mind. He was not looking for respect. He was looking for a paycheck. His first assignment was a mining station on a frozen moon. He worked there for 8 months, fixing broken machines and cleaning living quarters. Then he was transferred to a cargo hub where he loaded and unloaded ships for 3 more months. Finally, through a random rotation of workers, he ended up at the Royal Palace on the. It was the strangest place he had ever seen. Everything was too big, too bright, too beautiful. The hallways were wide enough to drive cars through. The ceilings were so high he could barely see them. The furniture looked like it cost more than his entire life savings. Guards in silver armor stood at every corner, their faces hidden behind smooth masks. Was assigned to the maintenance division. His job was simple: clean floors, polish surfaces, fix small problems, stay out of the way, do not speak to anyone important, do not make trouble. He followed these rules perfectly. The staff looked through him like he was invisible. The guards never asked his name. He came and went like a ghost, doing his work in silence, keeping his head down. Every 3 days he went to the communications center and called home. The time delay made conversations difficult. He would say something, then wait long minutes for his daughter's response to reach him. Her voice sounded different each time. Older. He was missing her childhood, 1 day at a time, and there was nothing he could do about it. Sent him drawings sometimes. His favorite was a picture of the sun with a big smile on its face. She had written words at the bottom in careful handwriting. The sun is happy because Daddy is coming home soon. He folded that picture and kept it in his uniform pocket. He touched it sometimes when the nights felt too long and the palace felt too cold. It was during one of those long nights that everything changed. Was organizing supplies in the East Wing storage room. It was 3 in the morning by Earth time, though time worked differently here. He could not sleep, so he worked. Organizing things helped calm his mind. It gave his hands something to do while his heart ached for home. The door opened. A small figure slipped inside. Looked up and saw a child. Violet skin, 4 arms, eyes like dying stars. She wore sleeping clothes that probably cost more than his yearly salary. She was staring at him with an expression he knew well. It was the look of a kid who expected to get in trouble but was too tired to care. He recognized her from the palace gossip. Princess Lyra, the queen's daughter, the one who did not speak, the one who had driven away 15 nannies and made servants whisper about curses. She stood in the doorway waiting for him to panic, waiting for him to bow, waiting for him to call the guards or run away like everyone else. Did none of those things. He looked at her for a moment, then turned back to his shelves. Couldn't sleep either, huh? He said, more to himself than to her. He did not wait for an answer. He knew one would not come. He went back to work, sorting cleaning supplies into neat rows. After a while, he started humming. It was an old Korean lullaby, the one his grandmother used to sing, the one he had sung to during thunderstorms when she was scared. He heard movement behind him, soft footsteps, then nothing. When he finally looked back, the princess had sat down in the corner of the room. She had pulled her knees to her chest and wrapped all 4 arms around them. She was watching him with those strange, sad eyes, not afraid, not angry, just watching. Shrugged and kept working. 2 hours passed. He organized, hummed, and occasionally talked to himself about nothing important. The princess never moved. She just sat there, breathing quietly, existing in the same space as another person without expectation or demand. When she finally left, slipping out as silently as she had come, noticed that one of his cleaning cloths was missing. A small blue microfiber cloth. Nothing valuable, nothing important. He did not report it. He did not tell anyone the princess had been there. He just smiled a little and went back to work, wondering what tomorrow would bring. After that first night, the princess kept appearing. Would be working in the hydroponics bay, trimming dead leaves from plants that grew on 17 different worlds, and she would be there, sitting on an overturned pot in the corner, watching. He would be scrubbing the floors in the lower kitchens at midnight, and she would slip through the door like a small purple shadow. He would be dusting the forgotten library in the East Wing, the one nobody visited anymore, and she would already be there, curled up between shelves that had not been touched in years. She never announced herself. She never made noise. She was just suddenly there, like she had always been there, like she belonged in whatever forgotten corner happened to be cleaning that day. He never asked her why. He never told her to leave. He never reported her to the guards or the servants or anyone else. What was the point? She was not hurting anything. She was not causing trouble. She was just a lonely kid looking for somewhere to be. Understood that feeling better than most. So he did what he had always done with shy children back in his teaching days. He gave her space. He let her exist without demands. He talked to himself while he worked, filling the silence with gentle words that expected nothing in return. He talked about small things, simple things, the way water drops formed on cold pipes and slowly grew bigger until they fell, the reason some flowers needed more light than others, how his grandmother used to make kimchi in big clay pots and bury them in the yard to ferment, how the smell of that kimchi would fill the whole neighborhood when she finally dug them up months later. He talked about how she used to chase butterflies in the park near their apartment, how she insisted on nomming every stray cat she saw, even though they never stayed long enough to remember their names, how she drew pictures for him every week and mailed them across the stars, and how each one made him feel like he could survive another day in this strange, cold palace. The princess never responded, but she listened. He could tell by the way her head tilted slightly when he mentioned something interesting, the way her eyes followed his hands as he worked, the way she leaned forward just a little when he talked about his daughter, as if hungry for stories about a family that actually worked. Weeks passed like this. Silent companionship, two lonely people sharing space without sharing words. Then one night something changed. Was cleaning a storage closet that nobody used. It was tiny and cramped and smelled like old dust. He had made it comfortable over the past few months, adding a small light and 2 overturned buckets to sit on. It was his secret resting spot, the place he went when the palace felt too big and too empty. The princess found him there. Of course she did. She had a talent for finding forgotten places. She stood in the doorway, holding something in 2 of her hands. It was a piece of fruit, round and golden, the kind that only grew in the royal gardens, the kind that servants were never allowed to touch. She held it out to him, looked at the fruit, then at the princess. Her face was carefully blank, but her eyes gave her away. She was nervous. She was offering him a gift, and she was afraid he would reject it. He took the fruit. "Thank you," he said simply. No big reaction, no surprise, just a normal thank you, like she had done the most natural thing in the world. The princess blinked. Something shifted in her expression. She sat down on the other overturned bucket and watched him, waiting to see what he would do next. Reached into his bag and pulled out a small container. Inside was instant noodles from Earth, smuggled in through a friendly cargo worker who did not ask questions. It was cheap food, nothing special, but it tasted like home. He had been saving it for a bad day. Today seemed like a good day instead. He split the container in half and offered one portion to the princess. She took it slowly, all 4 hands working together to hold the container and the chopsticks. She stared at the noodles like they were an alien creature. Showed her how to eat them, slurp them up. Do not worry about being polite. The best part of is the noise. The princess took a careful bite. Her eyes went wide. Then she took another bite, faster this time. Then another. Before long, she was eating like she had been starved for years, which, in a way, maybe she had been. Not starved for food, starved for something else. Something she could not name. They ate in silence. Two people from different worlds sharing cheap noodles in a dusty closet. It should have been strange. It should have been uncomfortable. Instead, it felt right. Like this was exactly where they were both supposed to be. When the noodles were gone, the princess put down her container. She looked at with those dying star eyes. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. A sound came out, rough, quiet, like a machine that had not been used in too long. More. One word, just one word. But it was the first word she had spoken in 2 years. His chest hurt. It hurt in a good way. The way it hurt when had taken her first steps. The way it hurt when his wife had said yes to his marriage proposal. The kind of pain that came from feeling too much love at once. He did not make a big deal of it. He did not cry or cheer or tell her how proud he was. That was not what she needed. She needed normal. She needed to feel like speaking was not some huge event but just a thing that people did, easily and without fear. So he just smiled and reached into his bag. Lucky for you, I always keep a spare. He heated up another packet of. They ate that one too. And when they were done, the princess said another word. Good. 2 words in one night. A miracle by any measure. Walked her back to the nursery floor, staying in the shadows where guards could not see them. Before she slipped through her door, she turned and looked at him one more time. She did not smile. She had probably forgotten how, but something in her face was different, softer, less like stone. She went inside. The door closed, stood there for a long moment, feeling things he could not explain. He did not know that cameras had captured everything. He did not know that somewhere in the palace, security officers were already preparing a report for the queen. He did not know that his quiet, invisible life was about to become very visible indeed. He just walked back to his quarters, humming that old lullaby, and fell asleep thinking about 2 little girls on opposite sides of the galaxy who both needed someone to listen without judgment. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. 3 days later, 2 guards came to his room and told him the queen wanted to see him. They did not ask politely. They did not explain why. They just stood there in their silver armor and waited for him to follow. Touched the folded drawing in his pocket. He thought about smiling sun. Then he took a deep breath and walked with them into the unknown. The throne room was the largest space had ever seen. The ceiling was so far above that it disappeared into shadow. Pillars of white stone rose like frozen giants on either side. The floor was polished black marble that reflected everything like still water. At the far end, raised on a platform of crystal steps, sat a throne made of something that glowed with soft inner light. And on that throne sat Queen Nara. She was beautiful in the way that storms are beautiful, dangerous and cold and impossible to look away from. Her violet skin was darker than her daughter's, almost purple. Her 4 arms were folded in a formal pose. Her eyes, the same color as dying stars, walked toward her with an expression that gave nothing away. Around the throne stood advisors and officials, all of them staring at like he was something unpleasant they had found on the bottom of their shoes. A human, a janitor. What was he doing here? Why had the queen summoned someone so far beneath her notice? Walked until he reached the proper distance, the spot on the floor where visitors were supposed to stop. He knew he was supposed to prostrate himself, fall to his knees, press his forehead to the ground. That was the protocol. That was what everyone did before the queen. He did not do that. Instead, he bowed. A polite, respectful bow, the kind a teacher might give to a parent at a school meeting. Then he straightened up and waited. The advisors gasped. Some of them looked ready to call the guards. How dare this creature show such disrespect? How dare he stand before the queen without groveling? But Queen Nara did not look angry. Her eyes narrowed slightly, her head tilted. She was studying him like he was a puzzle she could not quite solve. "You are not afraid of me," she said. Her voice was deep and smooth, like music played on ancient instruments. "Thought about this. With respect, Your Majesty, I have faced scarier things than royalty." The gasps from the advisors grew louder. One of them actually took a step forward, hand moving toward a weapon. But the Queen raised one of her arms and everyone went still. "What things?" she asked. "PTA meetings," said. "Tax auditors. My mother when I forgot her birthday once." Silence, long heavy silence. Then Queen Nara made a sound. It was soft, almost hidden, but caught it. A laugh. Just a tiny one. The Queen of 17 star systems had laughed at his joke. "Leave us," she said to her advisors. They hesitated. One of them started to speak. "Your Majesty, it is not safe to be alone with." I said, "Leave us." Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. The words carried weight like mountains. The advisors bowed and retreated, flowing out of the throne room like water draining from a sink. In moments, was alone with the most powerful person he had ever met. Queen Nara rose from her throne. She descended the crystal steps slowly, her robes flowing behind her like liquid metal. She stopped a few feet from and looked at him directly. Up close, he could see the tiredness in her eyes, the same exhaustion he saw in his own mirror every morning. "I have watched the recordings," she said. 17 times, my daughter ate with you, she spoke to you, 2 words but 2 words more than she has given anyone in 2 years. She paused. "How?" Thought carefully before answering. He was talking to a queen who could have him killed with a single word, but something told him that honesty was the only thing she wanted. "I did not try to fix her," he said. "What do you mean?" Everyone who came before, all those doctors and specialists, they looked at her and saw a problem, something broken that needed repair. Children know when adults see them that way. They feel it, and it makes them close up even more. The Queen was very still. "What did you see?" "A kid who was having a hard time. A kid who lost someone she loved and did not know how to carry that pain. A kid who needed someone to just sit with her, not demand anything, not expect anything, just be there." He paused, then continued. "I also think she liked that I did not bow to her. Everyone treats her like she is fragile or dangerous, like she might break if they say the wrong thing. I just treated her like a regular kid, like my daughter's friend who came over for snacks." Queen Nara closed her eyes. Her 4 hands clenched into fists, then slowly relaxed. "I have tried so hard," she said, and her voice was different now, smaller, more human if that word even applied to her. "I have loved her with everything I am. I would burn the galaxy for her, but I could not reach her. Every time I tried to hold her, she pulled away. Every time I spoke to her, she looked through me." "That is not your fault," said gently. "Is it not? I am her mother. You remind her of him, her father. You were part of the life she had before everything went wrong. Looking at you hurts because it reminds her of what she lost." He hesitated. "My daughter, she was the same after her mother died. For months she could not look at family photos. She could not go into her mother's closet. The memories were too heavy." The Queen opened her eyes. "What did you do?" "I gave her time. I did not force her to talk about it. I let her come to me when she was ready. And slowly, slowly, she started to heal, not forget. Healing and forgetting are different things, but she learned to carry the weight without being crushed by it." For a long moment, Queen Nara said nothing. She just looked at like she was seeing him for the first time, seeing not a human janitor, not a minor species worker, but a father. A person who understood something that all her advisors and specialists had missed. "I am going to do something that will shock my empire," she said finally. "I am dismissing your contract with the maintenance division." His heart dropped. He was being fired. Of course. He had broken protocol, spoken to the Queen without proper respect, interacted with the princess without permission. Of course there would be consequences. But the queen was not finished. You will be reassigned as Princess Lyra's primary caretaker. You will have full diplomatic status and appropriate compensation. You will have access to all areas of the palace. And, she paused, something softening in her eyes. You may bring your daughter from Earth to live here with you. Could not breathe. My daughter. I am told humans parent better when they are not separated from their young, that the bond between parent and child is essential to your. Was I misinformed? No, that is correct. His voice was shaking, he could not control it. Your Majesty, You saved my daughter when no one else could. You gave her words again. I could give you worlds and it would not be enough. The queen's face was still formal, still regal, but her eyes were wet. Let me give you this instead. Let me give you your family. Felt tears running down his face. He did not try to stop them. He did not apologize for them. For the first time in years, he cried in front of a stranger, and he did not feel ashamed. His little girl. He could hold her again. He could see her every day. He could watch her grow up instead of watching it happen through delayed video calls from across the galaxy. He thought about the smiling son she had drawn him, the one with the words about Daddy coming home. He was not going home, but home was coming to him. Thank you, he whispered. It was not enough. No words would be enough, but it was all he had. Queen Nara nodded once. Then slowly, she reached out with one of her hands and placed it on his shoulder. It was not a gesture she gave to commoners. It was not even a gesture she gave to nobles. It was something she had only ever done with family. Thank you, she said back, for seeing my daughter when I could not. They stood there in the empty throne room, two parents who understood each other's pain, and for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt completely alone. The ship arrived on a cold morning, stood at the landing bay with his hands shaking and his heart beating so hard he thought it might break through his chest. Around him, palace workers moved back and forth, doing their jobs, paying no attention to the human who looked like he might pass out at any moment. The ramp lowered. A small figure appeared at the top, clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. She was taller than he remembered. Her hair was longer. Her face had lost some of its baby roundness. But she was still his daughter. Daddy. Her voice was small and uncertain, like she was not sure if this was real or just another dream. Understood. He was not sure either. I am here, he said. I am right here. Ran down the ramp. She crashed into him with all the force her small body could make. He caught her, lifted her, held her so tight that breathing became difficult for both of them. Neither of them cared. You came, she whispered into his neck. You really came. I told you I would. I always keep my promises. They stood there for a long time, father and daughter reunited, making up for months of separation with a single embrace. Around them, the palace continued its busy work. Ships came and went. Guards marched past. Servants hurried to complete their tasks. None of it mattered. The universe had shrunk to just the two of them. It took 3 days to stop being scared of everything. The palace was too big, too strange, too alien. The servants looked at her with curiosity she did not understand. The food was weird. The gravity felt slightly wrong. She cried at night, missing her grandmother, missing Earth, missing the familiar world she had left behind. Held her through every tear. He told her stories. He made her from his secret supplies. He promised that this would start to feel like home, and if it never did, they would find somewhere else that did. They were together now. That was what mattered. On the 4th day, Princess Lyra appeared. Was sitting in the small garden near their new living quarters, trying to draw a picture of the strange flowers. She looked up and saw a purple girl with 4 arms standing at the edge of the path, watching her with intense, unblinking eyes. Most children would have screamed. Most children would have run to find their parents. Was not most children. She had spent her whole life being the new kid, the quiet kid, the one who did not quite fit in. She recognized that same loneliness in the alien girl standing before her. "Hi," she said. "I am. What is your name?" Lyra did not answer. She took a step closer, then another. She was holding something in two of her hands, a piece of cake, stolen from the royal kitchens, still dripping frosting. She held it out too. Looked at the cake. She looked at Lyra. Then she smiled, a big warm smile that was exactly like her father's. "Thank you. Do you want to share? I have half of my sandwich left." She pulled a crumpled sandwich from her pocket. Peanut butter and jelly, another smuggled treasure from Earth. She broke it in half and offered a piece to Lyra. The princess stared at the sandwich like it might bite her. Then slowly she took it. She sniffed it. She took a small bite. Her eyes went wide. "Good," she said. "Right, peanut butter is the best. My grandma makes it fresh. Well, she used to before I came here." Smile faltered for a moment, then came back. "But Daddy says we can get some scent from Earth. He knows a guy who moves cargo." Lyra sat down next to. They ate together, cake and sandwich, an unlikely pair who should have had nothing in common. But children are simple creatures. They do not care about species or status or the complicated politics of galactic empires. They care about snacks and games and whether the person next to them seems nice. By the end of the day, Lyra was showing the secret passages behind the library. By the end of the week, they were inseparable. Watched it happen with wonder. Two lonely girls from different worlds becoming sisters in all the ways that mattered. They played together. They ate together. They got into trouble together. Lyra taught how to reprogram drones, taught Lyra how to make paper airplanes. They created a secret language using hand gestures and made up stories about brave explorers who traveled the stars looking for the perfect dessert. Lyra started talking more, not just words but sentences, then paragraphs. Then she would not stop talking, making up for 2 years of silence with an avalanche of opinions, questions, and demands. She wanted to know everything about Earth. She wanted to know everything about humans. She wanted to know why peanut butter was so sticky and why his hair was that color and why hummed when he worked. Answered every question patiently, the same way he had answered thousands of questions from thousands of students back in his teaching days. He set boundaries and enforced bedtimes and made both girls apologize when they fought. He was firm but gentle, strict but loving, exactly the kind of father figure Lyra had been missing since her own father died. Queen Nara watched from a distance. She stood in doorways and looked through windows, afraid to come closer, afraid to break the spell. Her advisors told her she should take a more active role. The princess needed her mother, not just a human caretaker. But Nara remembered how Lyra used to flinch when she came near. She remembered the empty eyes and the stiff body, and the feeling of reaching for her daughter and touching only walls. One evening, found the queen standing outside the nursery. Inside, and Lyra were watching a human cartoon on a screen, giggling at the silly characters and sharing a bowl of something crunchy. "You could go in," said. Nara shook her head. "I would not know what to say. I have never been good with her. I loved her too much, held too tight. I reminded her of her father, perhaps, of the life we had before." Children do not need perfect parents. They need present parents. Just sit with her. Let her show you things. Ask about her day. It does not have to be complicated. The queen looked at him. This human who had changed everything. This janitor who understood children better than anyone in her empire. "Your species," she said slowly. "You are considered primitive, unimportant, yet you have taught me more about my own daughter than a lifetime of advisors ever could." Shrugged, "Humans are stubborn. We are not the strongest but we know how to love messy, difficult things. We have had a lot of practice. Our whole history is full of broken things we refuse to give up on." That night Queen Nara entered the nursery. She sat down on the floor next to her daughter, her royal robes pooling around her like spilled paint. Lyra tensed. Old fears rose up. Old walls started to build. But then, with the social grace of an 8-year-old who did not understand palace politics, shoved a crayon into the queen's hand. "You have to help us color this spaceship. I am doing the windows and Lyra is doing the engines, but nobody is doing the body, and it looks weird with no color." Nara looked at the crayon. It was purple, the exact color of skin. Slowly, carefully, she touched the crayon to the paper. "What color should the engines be?" "Blue," Lyra said. It was the first word she had spoken directly to her mother in 2 years. "Daddy says blue flames are hotter than orange ones." "Your daddy is correct." Nara's voice was shaking. "Blue it is." They colored together. The queen of 17 star systems, kneeling on the floor of a nursery, filling in a paper spaceship while 2 little girls argued about whether the windows should have curtains. It was not dignified. It was not royal. It was ridiculous and messy and absolutely perfect. In the doorway, watched and felt his heart grow too big for his chest. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the grief and the debt and the desperate choice to leave everything behind. He had thought he was giving up his life to save his daughter's future. Instead, he had found a new life, a new family, a purpose he never expected. He touched the folded drawing in his pocket, the smiling sun. Daddy is coming home soon. He had come home, not to a place but to a feeling, the feeling of being exactly where he was supposed to be. Years later, historians would write about the Empire's great transformation, how they adopted human approaches to child care and emotional education, how they learned that strength was not just about power, but about the courage to be vulnerable, how a single human changed the course of galactic history not through war or technology, but through simple, stubborn love. They would call it the human influence. They would study it in schools. They would write papers and give lectures and debate what it meant for the future of relations. But in that moment, in that nursery, there was no history being made. There was just a father watching 2 little girls teach a queen how to color inside the lines. There was just a family, strange and new and imperfect, learning how to love each other one small moment at a time. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, billions of lives continued their busy work, unaware that something small and beautiful was happening in a palace nursery. That was okay. The best things in the universe usually happen that way, quietly, gently, one act of kindness at a time. Smiled, turned away from the door and went to heat up some. 4 bowls this time. 1 for each member of his family.